set.
Really? Yeah. Yeah, it's just. Wait, I think we've turned. Feels like it's going to be shorter. I know.
Hope so.
Or you have to sit in on it.
Yeah.
Should go somewhere for holidays? No?
5 guests, 2 dogs, 1 cat.
So it starts. All right, are we waiting for him? Oh, no, Kjersti. She knows.
Yeah, I have not heard from Kjersti.
You saw her
No. I was dreaming.
Well, she comes. Materials for it?
Yeah.
Cool. All right, well, Happy New Year, everyone.
Anyone else like one?
We haven't said anything yet.
That's why I came here. Janie, I told this really good joke, you missed it.
Huh?
I told this really good joke, you missed it. It was so good.
That figures. It was before you got here.
Yeah, just let us know if you can. We'll speak up.
Anyone else on pen?
I think we're good. All right, Golf Course Pavilion.
Yeah, okay. So this is just a discussion item at this point. Now, the Golf Course Pavilion has been on the Park Commission radar since 2017. This was a part of the Golf Course Master Plan. And then it showed up again in when we had the pickleball discussion at the golf course. And you'll recall, in addition to the pavilion, there was also a fire pit and some other additional amenities. That project was passed on, but that idea for the pavilion has always kind of stuck around. About 2 months ago, several members of the Orono Lions reached out to the mayor and city staff, asking if they could look into either building a pavilion or donating money to get this done. And as this was on one of our goals for the golf course, we thought we'd start that discussion. It is very beginning stages of that discussion, but they're wanting to provide something very similar to what we had originally wanted in that area. We had, I think it was 25 by 40 dimensions for pavilion, and that would be on the top of the hill by the parking lot, close to 3 Fairway. I don't think those dimensions would be exact, what they want to provide. But this is a discussion that we started with the Lions. So we had a meeting about a month ago,
Yeah.
just to hear them out. And someone was going to come tonight, one of the Lions, who's also a league member. But what the goal is that we have this discussion, if this is something that is still a priority to the Park Commission, and then we would take our next steps. We would make a recommendation in February, and then take that farther. It'd have to go, I believe, to planning for some review, and then also to city council. So our step would just be the discussion, and then recommendation in the future.
Yeah, so Gordy and I did some work, as you guys remember, most of you remember, on the golf course, and came up with 4 priorities. And one of the priorities involved adding some amenities that would help attract some group events there. I mean, the clubhouse is super small, and in case of rain or something like that, we just couldn't, we really can't accommodate an event there. So that was one of the use cases. The other use case was, you know, the leagues hang around there afterwards, and they would, you know, appreciate, they barbecue up there and stuff like that. They'd appreciate that. So that was one of the 4 focuses that we had on our master plan. Another one was getting more winter activities and stuff like that. And I think that dovetails into some other stuff we'll talk about later on tonight. But this is great. The point tonight was just to introduce some of the commissioners haven't heard about this before. The point is to say that we have a great partner in the Lions that approached us and said we'd like to be able to help get this done. And so we just want to have this initial discussion with you guys tonight before we move on. There hasn't been much done on it, you know, except for this initial meeting, but they do want to move fast. They do want to have this part of it ready to go by the 100th year in June.
Yep.
The anniversary of the celebration. So they would, the idea is they have, the Lions themselves have a lot of, there's a lot of overlap, first of all, between Lions and the men's leagues there. And there are some people at the Lions that actually have the skills to be able to be able to do a lot of the construction skill, the labor themselves. So that's part of their contribution.
And
Would you describe what you mean by pavilion?
Yeah.
well, so they also built the pavilion at Nelson. Is that correct? Do you remember that?
Yes. That was like 20 years ago.
Correct. Yeah.
Like
So
By the Frisbee Golf Course there.
yeah. So I think we're looking at a rectangle. We don't need anything too
Like a pole barn?
ornate.
No walls.
Open air?
No walls, open air, yeah. But we would want it maybe aesthetically kind of matching the clubhouse, so it blends in a little bit more.
And a picnic tables,
Concrete pads.
something
to sit on.
over top, and then
No
concrete.
bathroom or
No.
sink?
Concrete with like a place to put barbecue.
And several years ago, the area that they're wanting to put that pavilion, that was graded out by the Orono Public Works so that we could put up a fest tent for different activities. So that has never happened, but this is, I think a better plan, putting in a pavilion than a fest tent.
So as we consider the golf course to also be a park, right? And this kind of supports that multi-use. If you have a family that wants to do a family reunion and they want to use the pavilion and it's during golf hours, is your thought that it's dedicated to golf, or is your thought that it's open to the community and, you know, that park just behaves like a park? So how are you going to balance those two? Because with a pavilion, it's going to draw that kind of people wanting to use it for other kind of festive things.
So our clubhouse manager is also the events coordinator for the city. So I think, yes, it would stay open to the public, but within reason. Friday night at the golf course might not be the best, but a Wednesday night, sure. I think we should keep it open to the public,
Most of the
but
users
within
would
reason.
just be using it because they're there golfing.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like a Saturday or Sunday, I could see people in the neighborhood or others saying, hey, we're going to have a family reunion, we'd like to have it there. So is that our intent, to make it available on the weekends for those kinds of
That's
events?
not the purpose
Yeah, I don't know.
for it, the main purpose, but I think that would, I don't.
I just think you need to be
I don't know
clear
about
about
that,
that.
So
I guess I'll leave that up to
we would
Josh
like
if
to
he
do
can.
more corporate events at the golf course. We have not really been able to do that because we don't have an indoor space to accommodate that group of people. But with an outdoor pavilion, we could look at groups that rent out the golf course, and then yes, we would close it to the public, and those tee times would be blocked off for that event.
Anything else?
I've always thought this was a worthwhile thing to look at, just for the reasons you said, of adding activities to the golf course. I think the aesthetics of this potential pavilion are really important. It's going to be a pretty abrupt change to what you see up there driving down the road. So I'd love it if we could find a way to get some concepts, you know, in front of the neighborhood, mostly again, as people are gonna be looking at it every single day. And just understanding the size, dimensionality of it, kind of where it sits with the parking lot and all that. So if we could get some, you know, I don't know, this is kind of more of a question, like how do we get to a point where we have a few different.
Yeah, that would be in the kind of design phase or whatever, but I can tell you that the Lions, aesthetics is important to them too.
Okay. Yeah.
And staff really was pushing what we had out on Big Island, there the metal poles with the metal roof. The reason we have that one out at Big Island is because everything wooden on Big Island burns, and so we wanted something that was a little more vandal-proof. We wouldn't necessarily need to emulate that at the golf course.
Yeah.
We have security cameras on it. There's a lot of traffic going through there, so
So you could do wood.
we're open to what different options they want to provide. We want to start that dialogue.
Yeah. Do you have any ballpark for how much something this is going to cost?
What's that?
Do you have any ballpark for what this might cost?
So we had budgeted for it 2 years ago was something like $50,000. That price
That's
probably
probably
changed.
on that Big Island cost.
Well, the Big Island cost is what we took. I think that was $42,000, and then everything was barged out for that too.
Right.
So maybe $50,000 is a reasonable number.
Everything's a lot more expensive than it was 4 or 5 years ago.
To the extent that the Lions aren't able or willing to fund all of it, it might be interesting to open that up as part of the 100-year anniversary, you know, as a community building thing to let people contribute to it if they wanted to.
Through the nonprofit.
And you had an idea also of like putting this, that would be a good place for like donation bricks.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff.
I think those are nice. Again, just the aesthetics of the things needs to be, I think, thought through a lot. So.
Well, Brian, I thought I heard you say you wanted it up and present for the 100-year celebration.
Not me.
That is their goal.
That's their goal.
That's
Okay,
their
because
goal.
with the fundraising, they're kind of, you know,
Yeah.
backwards, so,
Yeah.
okay.
I'd like to take it on the slower side of things and just be real thoughtful about it, make sure the neighborhood, community, everybody's feeling good about it. And if maybe we had the groundbreaking at the 100-year anniversary, something like that, if it was something everybody was up for.
Or even, does it need to have a roof and walls or a post or anything like that? I think even just making a flat area and getting some new picnic benches might elevate that area right now. Like I think right now it's some pretty dilapidated picnic benches and they're kind of scattered about up there. I imagine they have to get mowed around or moved, and so they kind of, it's a little bit of an eyesore up there right now with what's used. So even if it was just a designated gathering spot that was flat, even if that's the fastest we can go for 100 or something, we'd be able to do that.
So next steps are what?
So the Lions will hopefully be working on some proposals.
Okay.
And then I think that might have to go to planning just to make sure everything's okay with it. The Park Commission, we would need to make a recommendation in February.
Okay, so between now and February, we will see some of the ideas that they have and can contribute, or give their input on timing and aesthetics.
When could we fit in do some kind of open house to let neighbors and golfers come and check out what's being proposed?
If that's what you think needs to happen,
I do, yeah.
okay.
Except everybody's out of town at this time. You know, a lot of people go away for the winter, so they're not around. Thinking about doing it at the February meeting, you're not gonna get full feedback from the neighborhood.
Yeah, it does feel a little squeeze on time. I mean, I know that the Lions are anxious, but like,
Yeah.
it's been 100 years without one, so maybe we can.
Let's connect with the Lions. And
Yeah.
If you have a concern about the pace, then we should connect with them. And
Yeah, I wasn't able to make that
Express
last one,
them.
unfortunately, so maybe we can reconnect
yeah,
and they have some ideas on proposals and then we can talk about timing.
yeah. So I mean, you're part of this.
Yep.
The golf subcommittee.
Yep.
This is it. So.
Can I ask, just, can you guys shed light a little bit? This is my first time here. The Lions want to fast track this. Is there any other, like, what's their goal? I mean, their front, like, do they have plans to use it? Is that why they want to get it up so quickly? What
So-
are their intentions?
Yeah, so the Lions, so they do all of our grilling for us at our tree lighting event. So they're there quite a bit for that. Quite a few of them, I think one of you mentioned it. There's quite a few of the Lions that are also league members at the golf course. So these are the guys, after league is complete, they hang out on that flatter area up there and just sometimes they'll barbecue up there, they'll order food out, and it's just a nice place for them to hang out.
I think they're just excited to have it done.
Yep.
I mean, they're excited to be able to use it this summer,
Gotcha.
so I don't think it's anything more than that, so.
No, I don't think they would be holding their Lions meetings there on a regular basis. It would be for the golf course.
Yeah. Any other discussion? We'll continue to work on it as a golf course.
Yeah, I guess just wanted to get everyone's impression on this, if there are any big concerns with it, that we need to bring back to the Lions.
Yeah, you can,
I think it's great that they're willing to help out and lead a charge.
Yeah.
It's kind of what, if this thing's gonna happen, that's what it's gonna take, so I think we should give it a fair shake.
In addition to the aesthetics and the cost and the timing, I'd like you also to talk about the size. I mean, really, how big does it have to be? Or how small could it be and still serve the purpose if it's just gonna be used for golfers afterwards to have?
Which we asked that question.
Yeah.
I think aesthetics, that falls under, for me, aesthetics, like it doesn't need to be, I don't know, I think too big is probably gonna be, it's just not gonna look right, so we gotta be intentional about how that fits in with it.
So Brian, what's the point of having it covered? I mean, they're barbecuing up there, they're not gonna barbecue when it's raining. They're in this big they leave the golf course when it's raining. I mean, why wouldn't you consider a pad up there and then they have all those pop-up tents, or maybe the city invests in pop-up tents for events, rather than putting a more hardcover structure,
we have some pop-up tents now that are available, The whole premise of this partly was to be able to have some more events there, and to be able to have a place where if it rains or, they can go to. But because the clubhouse is so small, we really don't have that availability. And so this serves a couple different purposes. One is as a rain shelter. So.
well, I mean, I don't think they'd be having the event if it was raining out.
Well,
I mean, they used to have a lot of corporate events there, and I worked at them, I attended them, and, I don't think they would be going on if it was a rainy washout day. They'd probably just reschedule them.
There's times that when it rains and people, you're golfing and you want to just get under some shelter for a minute, let it pass through. I mean, I think that's,
Okay.
Reschedule your kid's birthday party or
Yeah.
something, I don't really have a backup for that, so I want it covered too, but I agree, but that's why I brought up, at least a pad would be a good start,
Yeah.
I think a roof has plenty of benefits, you don't need to discount that.
I mean, try out the corporate events first.
I think you need the roof. I think you need that type of thing there for drawing people.
Yeah, I don't think people are
We're not gonna make
Consider
it
a
building.
pergola. That doesn't give you the rain shelter, but it gives you the sun shelter. So, as you look at different options with the neighbors, a pergola could be kind of a nice look, because it'd be more open, but still provide shade.
Cool. Anything else on this before we move on?
Sounds good.
Everyone's in. Good conversation. All right, pickleball.
Okay,
You need to move down, Josh.
I will, yeah. So our purpose today, bringing this to you, what we are looking at today, we wanted to have a little discussion in this work session area, so that by the time we get to our February regular meeting, that we can have a recommendation as a park commission. What would happen after our recommendation is I would take that to City Council, looking for approval of the project, and then we can start going after final design. We can look at fundraising for this project and just future funding for it in general. But we are looking to move into a next phase. So what was presented to you the last time, we had 4 different concept drawings. We did have an open house with the public. We had good feedback. Most of what we heard was that we want as many courts as possible, but we don't want the impact to the garden. So we do, this drawing has not been changed since that time. So we'd like a little feedback from the Park Commission tonight. We can go back to Bolton and Mink for a final drawing of that, and then we can go have that cleaned up for our recommendation.
So we've had several conversations since we last met. I think the primary concern with not wanting to do the additional amenities like a shelter, like umbrella, that kind of an area. Recognizing that the way that drop-in pickleball works is there's a continuous flow of people in and out of the courts, right? So if you're out of the game, you're probably staying around for 10, 15 minutes at the most, and then you're back in the game. So a lot of times you're standing, not even sitting. So the question became, how do we manage that flow? Do people really sit at a picnic table? What's the best way to do that? So we came up with a couple of recommendations. First of all, stick with the courts. Don't add additional costs for that kind of seating area, the netting that sometimes you put around the outside of the courts for a wind barrier. We know at Victoria, for example, they've asked to have them taken down because people can't see in the courts. People want to watch the games, right? There's a lot of interaction between the people who aren't playing and the people who are playing. So what we suggested is normally between the 6 courts on the left, where it looks like there's a walkway between them, that's typically would be an open area, and then there's fencing on both sides, 4 foot high, and that's where you walk in and you go into those courts, right? So if we widen that to allow for casual seating within there, eventually you could put umbrellas if you wanted, and extend that sidewalk across the bottom according to the way that's sitting there. So the north side of the other 3 courts on the right side, so sidewalk running that full length. That would allow you to have, you know, your lawn chairs, people standing around, mulling around, the movement in and out of the courts. So as opposed to having a pavilion, and that, for example, would not be a great location because, you know, you want to be there so that when your paddles come up next, you're moving in and you're moving out. It's always a quick turnaround. So we didn't want to presume that adding the hardcover to have that area made a lot of sense right now. We know we need a walkway just to manage the traffic in and out of the courts. So if we widen it a bit, that would also accommodate the people who are mulling around, watching games, sitting in their chairs, and eventually could maybe be, you know, something more permanent, so to say, in terms of umbrellas if you want to do that later. The pathway going over to the other park, again, not really a part of this phase. Keep it small, keep it simple so that we don't end up with greater challenges in terms of fundraising. So that was another one of the recommendations. So basically, yeah, what you see here, not moving the gardens, no enhancements to the gardens, no changes to the gardeners. The gardeners really just want to keep it as is, right? And really, almost all of the surveys that came back consistently said just leave the garden as it is, okay? So this accommodates that as well, in addition to the parking. And it allows us to see what the flow of people is and understand things like wind conditions before we might go out and get people to sponsor a windscreen on one side of the courts. So those are all things that people don't have today. They're not used to having them. They're not saying, oh, the courts won't work without them. Let's not add a lot of frills and costs. What they really want is just a surface to play on with the appropriate fencing around it, and assuring that we're managing the flow of people in and out of the courts efficiently. Because that's really key to the capacity of the courts, is getting on the courts fast, getting off the courts fast, confining the activity to inside the courts.
Yeah, so our next step is to work with Bolton and Mink to come up with design, put pen to paper, basically. What's new for the commission is that we had this open house, we took the feedback. Our approach is to focus on the courts itself. We're not going to in this design, you won't see a pavilion. You'll see courts, you won't see a trail, but you'll see the courts, you'll see the parking, and basically the approach is kind of a no-frills proposal.
With 9 courts right off the bat?
With 9 courts. Now, the one thing that we're going to do is the 9th court, which is the one to the southeast, or the southeast there, is going to be, because we won't have a pavilion and so forth, we're going to reserve that at first for not being a playable court, but to be a place to gather. And
Think of it as a court without a net.
Okay.
It's lined for a court, it's fenced for a court, but there's no net.
And if there is a need or interest in a pavilion at some point, then we can add that later and other types of amenities.
We've also heard from the fire chief, very supportive of it, thinks it's a great idea. Have had no feedback from the neighbors, which isn't surprising because they're really kitty cornered off from it to the 2 sides and quite a distance. So that also not a surprise. So we really haven't faced any significant issues. And Josh, you said you were pretty comfortable that we've got ample room to move around in there without cutting the corner of the garden at all.
I don't remember, was it paved parking?
Yes.
Yes.
And the drainage will come to the south?
Yep, so
Away
you
from
see
the
there's a stormwater pond
Yeah.
built into that plan. There's already something there right now, but we're looking to add on to it with that hardcover.
And remember, these are just concepts, so
Yeah.
the trees, who knows if there'll be trees, who knows if that runoff pond there is the right.
We know the gardeners don't want trees next to the garden, for example. That would just shade things. So, yeah, don't get too caught up on the trees.
Just conceptually, I really like it, but just conceptually, where the pavilion is, that would still be open paving for our future?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
That'd
No,
just be
that would
That'd
be
just
for
be parking.
parking.
It'll be
It'd be
paved for
parking.
Oh,
parking.
you'd actually,
We would never put a pavilion there.
gotcha, okay, fair enough. And I like the idea of moving the courts down and giving more room in between. It seems like the right size, and I like the garden not moving.
Yeah, I'll say, like, the open house was great. I think we had a lot of opinions on both sides, a lot of great feedback from all people, and I will say, like, did we have people said, of course, move the gardens and build 42 courts, and of course, don't touch the gardens, don't build anything? Yes, we'll have extremes on both sides. The vast majority were all supportive of seeing how these could cohabitate. I think some things that we definitely heard were, yeah, the tree comment was, why would you build trees over a garden when you need the sunlight? Like, great, it was just sketching the plan here. It's like awesome to get everybody's opinions. A couple of plans had community gardens, which was an awesome idea. Nobody came forward, nobody was interested. There's already a huge garden here, and somebody brought forth that a lot of people have large lots in Orono. Might just not be a need for our community. So I think it was just also good to talk to our community about what they're looking for and different amenities. And overall, I just appreciate all the turnout we've had, all the open houses, be the golf course, or this side as well. So it's just been good to hear everybody's opinion on it. But overall, yeah, there was a lot of support. So.
John?
Were there any conversations with Long Lake just about connectivity to Holbrook and how?
No. house, not me.
That to me seems so glaring as a resident of Orono, that's the line, and Long Lake bought that land, and what, this is an opportunity. Apparently bridges are burned, but like, why not work together with them, and maybe we could build something together. There's the park right next door too. So to me, I feel like we're missing an opportunity to try and work together with Long Lake here. And yes, I'm a gardener, but also, like, I understand that this is now a multi-use space probably, but like, there's Hackberry Park and all that land. I think, to me, the courts really would look great. Like, the closer you get into 12, the closer you are to like more commercial space. And also, I'm wondering, like, this isn't a done deal, right? I mean, we're still in like conceptual phase.
Yeah.
I just would love to see someone from the Park Commission
So
work
I
with
did reach
someone
out
at Long Lake.
I did reach out to Long Lake about Holbrook, and they had no interest. So we can't build on their land, either on Walsh or Golf.
Who'd you talk to?
The clerk, you gave me the name of the clerk, and I reached out and
Well, I mean, I don't think it's the clerk's decisions to decide whether they're gonna work together or not.
I'll reach out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we have to do due diligence.
You could know just like what their
especially-
long-term, if they have any long-term vision or plans for that. I heard it's.
I've looked on the website and stuff like that, but I haven't reached out to them.
Yeah, it's just like right on the property line. I don't know.
Well, and I think one of the great things about the design of this is that it allows for a second phase. So when you start seeing a lot of people coming here, and you can bet a lot of people who will be coming in will be Long Lake residents, right? They'll get the benefit of the courts along with the Orono residents. And I think that will just sort of organically lead to Long Lake saying, wow, you know, we really enjoy this. Let's expand upon this with what we do in these other areas. So I don't think it precludes a lot of that from happening in the second phase. And I think it really, in many respects, becomes a platform for community building between Long Lake and Orono. Because pickleball players are like that, first of all, right? They're just, it's drop-in play is not, oh, we have these 4 courts and we're from Orono and you can't play on courts. It's a constant, everybody's playing with everybody. It's a very community-based kind of game. So when we looked at this layout originally and knew that that area was owned by Long Lake, I fully anticipated that somewhere down the line, they would expand their park around it and think about what other things are complementary and logical in light of the flow of people that are coming through here. You do have to be somewhat realistic about parking and how much you can do in terms of capacity on that site, because with this parking, your parking's gonna be full, right? That pickleball development is going to generate that amount between that and the gardens, right? That amount of demand on that parking. So I think you just need some time to figure out, like I said earlier, the flow of people and how people interact with that and how the garden and the courts interact with each other. And then I think some of those other opportunities are going to become more natural and more apparent. So I absolutely agree that that's something that has to happen. I think it would be difficult to do it at this stage.
But just reaching out is great.
Yeah.
But if you really envision that kind of potential phase 2, I think starting with 9 is too many. Because why is Orono taking on the work? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, maybe you want 12 eventually, we put in 6, let's see how it goes, and then the other 6 go on the other side of the property.
And I think we debated this a great deal among ourselves. I think because the fundraising for this is going to be significant effort, right? And will largely be driven by the pickleball community being involved in trying to engage different organizations to do matching funds and things and grants and things. I don't think we're going to get a second round of that, right? We're going to have that energy behind it, and once it's established, what I think is important to understand is it's not like this is phase 1 of pickleball for Orono. This is pickleball for Orono. We're not going to have another site in another park, and another site in another park, right? It's best to focus it in an area where we've all agreed we don't have the issue with housing, right? We don't have competing we're not displacing another activity like kids t-ball, that sort of thing. So I think it is important we don't underbill. We know that the size that's being developed in most communities at this point is at least as big or bigger. I mean, Maple Grove is doing 18 courts, right?
They're a town of how many people?
Huh?
I mean,
Oh, sure,
like-
sure. Victoria has 8, and they have a significant demand issue. They don't have enough courts for the number of people. So I think it's important. We talked about this a fair bit as a subgroup, that relative to the number of people who are playing in the area and in our community in particular, there is more than enough demand for these courts. And to not build the 9 would be short-sighted, and then we're right back at the table saying, ooh, you know, we should have built the 9. So anything we're talking about is always subject to our ability to identify the funding sources, right?
Yeah, I
So
think
in
it's
the
gonna-
end, that's what
funding
we'll
is gonna
drive.
decide how many courts are.
Exactly, exactly,
We just have to figure out what the right number is if you get the money.
exactly.
Anything else?
Yeah, Jamie, I have a question. At the last meeting, you brought up that you'd be open to squaring up the garden. Can you expand on that? Like, what are you, like, obviously the rows are perpendicular
Squaring up the fence.
of the fence, but the rows are perpendicular to the fences. Like, obviously our goal is to not touch it, but like, expand on it. Are you,
I don't think it looks bad over there. This layout actually looks like it's gonna cover the whole entrance to the garden.
well, isn't the entrance to the south? Oh, sorry, there's an access point to the south. The entrance is on the west there. Yeah, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
That's a clear entrance point for you.
I agree that, you know, I went to all the surrounding cities myself to ask about the ones that have pickleball courts. Like Medina, all the cities, they're not building anymore, they're not gonna do anything because there has to be communication with the neighboring cities. There could be an oversaturation of courts. Now, you're a really active pickleball player. You know, I don't know, are you representative of you know, the population of Orono? I mean, I don't think you can compare Maple Grove.
No, I mean, we
Courts.
did, one of the pickleball community members did, prior to this startup again for this particular site, did a petition to say, hey, we support Orono developing pickleball in the community. And I think it was within 3 weeks there were 200 people, pickleball players, who said,
A
yeah,
lot
we
of them are
support.
from Mound.
I wouldn't say that. But it is fair to say that the nature of pickleball is Mound people play in Orono people play in Mound and Orono people play in Victoria. You know, people travel all over to play, there's no doubt about that. I can tell you that there is not enough outdoor capacity. People are largely playing like at the high school where, you know, it's tennis courts, and when they're having practice for the tennis team, when they're doing summer lessons and those sorts of things, then the pickleball players have no place to go, right? So the idea of dedicated courts, in many respects, this replaces what they don't have, right? The demand is already there. It's just shifting from place to place, trying to find places to play, because there's no dedicated pickleball courts. Other than, you know, there's 2 back behind Gordon Fletcher's in Spring Park. There are 2 out on the island. I'm trying to think where else there are really public dedicated pickleball courts in this area. Mound has none. There are none in Mound, okay? So it's in this particular area of the West Lakes, there isn't much. You gotta go out to Victoria, you gotta go to Golden Valley, you can go up to Maple Grove, you can go indoors to the for-profits.
Well,
It turns
Long
out-
Lake they go to, too, out in Hopkins Center.
Sure, Hopkins, yeah. So people are generally speaking, to get to dedicated pickleball, driving 20 to 40 minutes.
So for today, you just want to know if we have any concerns, because we're going to do this in February.
Yes.
I think we move forward. And for what it's worth, I like the little skew. It's actually a really nice touch, and I think it would help with all the activity going around, so I wouldn't square it up.
So a park commission recommendation is not final authorization to do the project. It still need to go to city council, and it would still be dependent on funding.
And that's not today,
And
that's
that's not even today.
Yeah.
And is it the current thought of funding that a lot of this would be coming from the pickleball community?
it has to.
Well, that's like saying I'm gonna take $10 out of my pocket. The fundraising effort would come from within the pickleball
That's what I mean,
community
yeah.
to find businesses and, you know,
Yeah.
organizations that do matching. I know that there has
That's
been.
one way to get around it. I mean, it is gonna be used by a lot of people outside of Orono.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you get on the fundraising side to have people, pickleball players from all over this West Metro contributing would be good.
Yeah. I know, I have a brother in Central Wisconsin, small town, like 16,000 people, in very similar ways, a lot of people playing pickleball. They're building, they already have 6 courts, they're building another 9, and they just got somebody to give them a $100,000 donation for naming it.
Nice.
You know, so there are, people will support this, right? People are passionate about it. And I will just say my one last thing is, just don't forget, the reason why pickleball is important, I can put it in the words of one of the players I was with a couple weeks ago. Her name's Sandy, but it wasn't me. She is in her 80s, and she plays. And she said to me the other day, she said, pickleball saved my life. These are my friends. This is my community. I have a place to go. I enjoy being here. This gives me this purpose, this place to go to engage with people. This is important to our community. It's not just about another park. It's not just about another sport. This is something that makes a huge difference in the lives of the people who play. And it's not just older adults, right? If anybody is interested in seeing pickleball in this West Metro community, the Westonka Activity Center is doing a tournament on January 12th. Come see. Come see who's playing. Come see the activity. Come, observe the level of engagement that's going on there. All ages. One of the guys in the group, Dave Vielander, he's probably 74. He's playing in the tournament with his grandson, who is 9.
Cool.
That's what pickleball is about. And that's why I'm passionate about it. Because I see what it does for people. I see what it's done for our community. And I know what it's done for me personally in terms of health. So that's why, we don't want to underbill.
My one piece of advice is see if you can get a person or 2 from the community to get on that committee with Kjersti and Danny on the fundraising committee, because they're
Oh, yeah.
struggling to populate that committee, and I think if we could get one success to come out of that, it could really spill over into other parks, and I totally believe that this is going to work with that community, so get plugged in soon.
Just as an FYI, a small group has already started meeting and have identified grants.
Make sure they're not working in parallel.
Oh, no. It won't be here though, because Josh and I talked about this fundraising, the cost, that all happens with city council. So the interaction when we start doing the fundraising is with staff and city council. It's not parks.
Right, but anything coming in private will go through the.
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And Kjersti and I had that conversation.
Not to cross T's and dot I's, if you only get fundraising for 6, are you taking the vertical 6 or the horizontal 6? Kind of serious. Like, is there?
I would think the logical would be to do the horizontal. I would think that would be the logical way to do it. But, yeah.
Good job. Good?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, next, Rick, I'll let you chime in on this if that's all right. So we have our trails.
Now my passion. So can you bring up the first slide and I'll tell you when to go. So a little bit of context, talking about mountain biking in Orono. We've been talking for quite a number of years. John, who coaches the team, is here if we have questions, but I think I can get this pretty close. A number of years ago, the team were using the area around the school before the community center was built. They lost their opportunity to bike there. We gave them permission to bike around Bederwood Park, which they've done probably for 7 or 8 years. And by around the park, I mean along the treed edge of the road and in between fields. They came to us a number of years ago and asked if they could create a small trail in the southwest corner in the wooded area, which we said they could. There was a lawsuit that has really tied that up. We went ahead and made it optional, open for people to use, but the school district that sponsored the bike team asked them not to use it during the litigation. That is now behind us. It's been thrown out with prejudice, so there's no retrial of it. So that's available to us. In the meantime, we looked at other options, and I'll show a map. And honestly, we sat down. There were probably 4 or 5 of us, including staff. Look, I mean, we literally said, let's look at every site in the entire city of Orono, regardless of if it's a park or it's publicly owned. I called the people that owned the apple orchard. We talked to the school. We had some real traction, I think, with a couple sites with DNR, but nothing has worked. And then the presentation I'm going to go through very quickly. And I will say this is really just a dry run for this group. We'll do this at the February meeting, not for any action, but to get real feedback and to let the public weigh in as well. And then a next step, if it doesn't, if hopefully people are as excited about it as I am, but if they're not, it could stop. But otherwise, we would do an open house also. And then, we're not even sure what we'd be asking for, so we're not ready to go to the council. But when we were out at the golf course, so Gordy and Brian and I think one of the staff, trying to give life back into the ski trails on the golf course. So we were riding around the golf course on the golf carts. And we've got that teed up, if it would just snow. We've got the course figured out, we're ready to stake it, we've got grooming equipment. I don't think it's gonna happen. But while we were out there, lo and behold, it just occurred to me that I do mountain bike and I go very often to Bederwood Park, which is essentially a golf course that has mountain biking. So we dug into it a little deeper, so now I think I'll go to the PowerPoint. So these are the kids. This is really what we're talking about. This would be primarily targeted at kids, not exclusively. Certainly anybody could come regardless of your age. Next slide. Just to kind of go to the point of the pickleball discussion, this is a map of our vicinity with the actual authorized tracks around the area. Most of them are Three Rivers Parks, Elm Creek, Lake Rebecca, Monarch. Lone Lake, you might have heard about in the news. It took years of struggling against some local community to get that, and it's been a huge success. Mountain biking and pickleball, by the way. It's a great location they have. And Bederwood is the golf course that I go to. So really there's no way for the kids from the community to bike to a course or even have a short ride to the course. So next slide, please. These are just some of the areas we looked at. The school, where they used to be, Bederwood Park, where they tend to go now. The middle red triangle, number 3, or parallelogram, is the area that we looked at with the DNR. And then the golf course, also on the loose line, is in the lower right. So I think I'll stop here and just say we've started the conversation with people who live near the golf course, but we will have lots of conversations with the community and with the golf course community before next February and before we have any kind of an open house. But then we will have an open house, so anyone can come. Next slide. So this is the golf course, and I think, it's 45 acres. I think I'll just have you go to the next slide, because I think go back, sorry. You can see the country club, the house, and the conversation we were just having about the pavilion. Can you use your cursor to show where that pavilion is? Because we'll come back to that. That pavilion is pretty close to where we would enter the wooded area, which is like at Bederwood in the southwest corner here. So that's a 45-acre golf course, and now if you go to the next slide, this is Theodore Park. So Theodore Park is a gigantic facility. They've got a full 18-hole course, they've got a 9-hole course, and they've got a number of other activities there, including frisbee golf. They do a ton of cross-country skiing. People are probably, this is where the World Cup is going to be in February, if you've been reading about that, where Jesse Diggins will win a medal. And I think, and John might have been the one who said it, I bike here once or twice a week. I think if you're a golfer at Theodore Park, you may not even know there's mountain biking going on. If you're a mountain biker, you know there's golf because you can hear it and see it in the background. But there's probably 12 or 15 miles of biking here, and that's a lot more than what we're talking about. Next slide.
Rick,
Yeah.
go back to that
Go back.
slide. What's the blue line?
Blue is
that bike
single track mountain bike trail. Thank you for asking.
And then the dotted trail is a walking path?
I think that might be the ski trails. They've had some maps that separate winter and summer. It's probably walking path.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. I think this is the one where they had a separate summer and winter. Okay, next slide. So this is the area, because the extreme southwest corner is wetland, this is about a 5-acre piece of land that would absolutely be an amazing place for a small course for kids. You know, we probably get 1 to 2 miles of trail out of it. We would enter up by Taylor's house. I went out and walked with him, so we'd be coming up from the golf course or from the parking lot, and we'd have a well-marked area, so nobody's gonna get in the way of any golfers or go on anybody's private property. And while I'm on this too, this is a little bit of a thing to explore a little bit further, but you see the loose line in the upper left. We're pretty sure that the kids could come, we could still have parking at Bederwood or drop-offs at Bederwood and have the kids bike down the trail, or anybody who's using it, and bike on a trail that's along the golf course and come up in through the parking lot. So we wouldn't have to rely on parking, and that's something that I know is very sensitive. We would make sure to not put any pressure on the already hard to park area at some times, like on weeknights. Next slide. So this is a side-by-side of one of the trails. So that's a zoom in, so the light, or the kind of light purple line within the white line on the right, that's a single track at Worth, that's about 1.5 miles, and that's a comparable size to what we have here. We also have, there's kind of a nice cleared flat area in the golf course area where we would do what we call a pump track, or sort of a skills course, and I'll show you a picture of that in a minute. So one of the things, I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss things, but I'll certainly take questions. When we walked through the woods, I think Josh or Brian or someone asked about tree clearing. For the most part, when you make a single track course, you don't take out trees. You definitely do not take out mature trees. You will take out weed trees or buckthorn, but for the most part, we just need a trail that's about that wide, and very few trees are that close together. So, next. This is just some ideas of what we might do back in the woods if this happens. That's a little bit of a practice area for kids. Most of the trails have them now. Theodore Worth has one, and they've been building a little bit. And then the last slide, just so that I don't forget, this is absolutely 100% a multi-use trail. These trails now, all the ones that were on that bigger map, the Three Rivers Trail, are open to hikers, dog walkers, runners. People use their mountain bikes, their fat tire bikes. In the winter, they're now being groomed or knocked down by snowshoers, so they're available for winter biking and snowshoeing. And ultimately, I just think it'd be a really nice way of making the golf course a more valuable place with multiple use without infringing at all on golf. So.
But Brian, you said that it would only be for bikes, that nobody, because I asked if it could be a walking path too, and you said no.
Oh, I don't remember that. Sorry, but of course people can go out there.
Yep.
Where would the kids put all their bikes when they come?
They would ride them.
They would ride them there, but then if they want to go to the clubhouse, would they are you gonna need bike racks up there for the kids to?
Well, I hadn't thought about the kids using the clubhouse. They're probably only here one night a week for a couple hours, maybe 2 nights a week. So, I'm thinking about, the other thing is I don't want to make any false promises, but at Theater Worth, if you ever go to Theater Worth now, they have this incredibly beautiful pavilion that's there not because it's just a golf course, but because it's got golf and skiing and biking. So pretty much what people do is put their bike on their car or lay it out in the side. I don't even think maybe there's a small bike rack there. So it'd be pretty.
What,
So
how many people are you talking about? Yeah, how many kids?
How many would be in a group at one time if you took a
So, the team has got about 50 kids, co-ed, 6th grade through 12th grade, boys and girls mixed. But we would never take that whole group at a time. So we split the group up by skill level and ability. So usually it's the younger kids together, and we'll have 3 or 4 or 5 different groups. So I can imagine coming through there 10 kids at a time, up to 20 kids at a time. To answer the question about where would you put the bikes, I can't imagine anybody would ever leave their bike there for any reason, because you would ride your bike there, ride the single track. If there's a skills park area there, we would teach skills and ride on that skills park area, and then you would ride back to Bederwood or to the house, wherever they live or whatever. For biking, you're not leaving your bike there and hanging out. We're riding our bikes and teaching these kids skills and stewardship of the land and things like that.
It's a pretty sparse activity. If I'm doing that trail at Worth that was up on there, there's never more than a couple people on that trail at the same time. If I'm doing the Lone Lake Trail, which I think is a 6-mile loop, there might be 6 people out there at a time. So it's people sort of naturally space themselves out.
Even if 100 people went to this trail in a day, you would almost never see any of them because you get spread out.
Yeah.
Once you're, the density is not very huge, and there's very little impact. Now, I would be surprised if 100 people would ever go to that trail in a day, but
That would be
as an example, it's not dense like other things.
Yeah.
How do you maintain something like that in light of trees coming down,
Yeah,
brush and all that
it's
kind of stuff?
I'm not sure if you were there. We had a visit from the Midwest Off-Road Cycling Group, MORC, they're sort of the safety net for all of these, whether they're owned by the city of Lake Sloped or Three Rivers. MORC helps create volunteer groups. And we wouldn't do it without their support because they'll put the conditions, open or closed on the website, they'll help us find funding. And what they do is help you pull together a network of people that you can count on to get out there and do a quick tree clearing if there's a need. So they're amazingly maintained. Yeah. Other questions? All right, if you think of something after this, shoot me an email, give me a call. We'll tee it up again next week, and
Next month.
I'm sorry, next week. And then we'll talk. And to the point about I didn't want to say anything prematurely, but maybe there's an open house because there's no hurry on this one. Believe me, we're not building this summer. So if there's a reason to tie an open house together with the pavilion, we could certainly do that, and we could wait until people are back from the winter.
Yeah, that's great.
So, thank you.
All right,
I apologize.
that's all right. So Dave Potter with the Lions, also a golf league member.
Dave Potter, 265 Glenmore Lane, Long Lake. We have approached the city about a private-public partnership to build a picnic shelter or a structure up at the Orono Golf on the 3rd hole. Josh has probably filled you in
He
on
did.
that. Okay, so this is very preliminary. I guess the interest to carry forward with this project possibly.
There is.
Okay, and there's some design issues we need to talk about. There was a design put forward, the metal shed that we call it.
Yeah, so we talked,
Yeah,
as a park commission, we're going to keep an open mind. If you're presenting a couple different options,
Okay.
we would be happy to entertain those. We want to look at them. So I know wood was a preference for the Lions, or something aesthetically pleasing.
yeah. What Orono Golf has is 100 years of history, and so I think it's really important that you put a structure out that looks just like the clubhouse, like it's always been there. That would be our goal. I know the city has some vandalism issues, and you lost one out on Big Island. Yeah, I'm receptive to that, but I think we have a different situation here. It's a lot more visual. Not a bunch of drunken kids on boats and things like that. Even though I understand the issue, but I think we want it to look nice, number one. And if you build it out of metal, you would negate the Lions' offer to put this thing up for free for you, plus some funding. We haven't got to anything like that yet. So that's why we are going towards a wood structure. Number one, aesthetics, so we could look a lot better. And number two, it's something we can do. So maybe the next meeting, your next full.
So we had maybe a few concerns that the timeline was a little too quick. You want to?
Well, the goal was to get it built by the 100th. You know, sometimes it's really nice to have a drop dead deadline to get things built. But that's just us. You know, I know cities got have to go through the protocol, but.
It depends on how fast we can get it in front of the community. Seeing some ideas, some sketches, some just similar even pictures that we put on the internet. Whatever we can, just to get in front of the community. I think there was a request to
absolutely, yeah.
have kind of an open house.
Some drawings and things, yeah, appropriate. But
like the faster we can do that, the faster we can get some feedback and just making sure.
And yeah, that we can get design and improve design and things. You know, it's kind of hard to start generating drawings without that kind of guidance. So yeah, let's work on that. Next meeting, we can get a number maybe, and start talking about that stuff. So very preliminary. Excuse me, I'm sorry I'm late. I didn't know if I started at 7. Yeah, Janie, is a question?
What size do you have in mind?
Well, the city said 50 by 25. I guess it's kind of the agreed. We might go 48 by 24 because 8-foot stuff works better with lumber and that kind of stuff. But approximately 1,250 square feet, which is like a 3-car garage, basically, approximately. And that's not carved in stone.
Correct.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit just how the kind of this, is this something you guys have been talking about for a while? Like how often
15 years.
Being used? Do you think you use a lot?
Oh yeah, I know just the golfers use it. That's where everybody sits anywhere, is up on, the picnic table. That's a nice
Kind of in and out, kind of weather bending?
Yeah, I think if you want to have like corporate events and things like that, you don't have a place to do it really, except the deck, which can be really hot in the daytime. And I just think we've always thought this was something that the Corps should have had years ago.
Yeah.
And we finally approached the mayor and the city and said, hey, and there's interest, and yeah, we'd like to certainly go forward with it. We're looking for a project.
Have you considered the shelter thing down by where the pickleball courts were, down by at the end of the 9th?
We've always looked at that site, never evaluated different sites.
It would be out of sight then.
Well, for security, having it inside is good, but I don't know. We could entertain different sites, Josh. We never talked about that.
Well, I think the perspective of inside or out of sight maybe varies whether you live in the do you drive by it all the time?
I do. Number of times.
I know, I'm just throwing it out there. I hardly ever drive
No, I
by
understand.
it, but I'm just saying.
Well, the last thing we want to create is an eyesore. Nobody wants to do that.
I don't think that's your intention.
Yeah, I don't think that's it either. I just think, our parks are so important and private land is getting so built up in Orono that we really should be conscious of keeping these spaces open with as little hard cover and structure as possible. I mean, I know you guys would use it well because I see the golf leagues up there. What are you doing at Grace? Do you not have a barbecue?
Well, I have 20 Lions tents, so we just bring a tent.
Yeah, so I mean, would you think a pad and then use pop?
Oh yeah, for sure. Put be cement, similar to the structure that's down in Nelson Park. Well, it'd look nicer than that one. But it's 16 posts and a roof is what it is, and a concrete slab. And then there was talk of adding that fire area, just I think south of it, maybe some grills down the road, some landscaping to make it look more aesthetic. But very early stages here.
So is that why you cut all the trees down, Josh?
Well, that's,
I have an update on that, Jamie.
that's a different issue. It did give us more room to build this.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything else? Any questions?
Looking forward to seeing the
Great.
action.
Yeah, appreciate
Great,
your
sure.
time.
We're looking forward to it.
All right, up next, we have our goals and committees discussion. This is an exercise that we do every year. Park Commission has been in a little flux the last 2 years, just with the amount of meetings we've had. Work sessions over the last 2 years have not been fun, and they've not been very productive. They've been contentious, so we are slowly adding them back in. So we're going to be doing 3 work sessions, January, June, and October, I believe. And so what we want to do too is really kind of look at throughout the year as a park commission, adding, or I guess solidifying our goals. And it's not really fair to do it all in one session in January, to come up with all your goals as a park commission and then ride the rest of the year out. So what we're going to be doing with our work session today is just going through our exercise, our goals for the year and the committees, and then kind of building those committees around the goals or subcommittees. And then we'll reevaluate throughout the year, and this will all go to help shape our CIP in the fall. So staff, what I do this last year, the last 2 years, I sit in all these meetings, I take notes, and that's the information that I use to help shape the CIP. I'd like the Park Commission to have a little more say in it. I want you to feel involved in this process and have the subcommittees really feel like they are pushing those projects. Brian, you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, tonight is mostly about planning the work groups for the year based on ideas that have come up in the past and that are part of master plans and so forth. Tonight's really not about brainstorming new inspirations. I think that the time to do that is closer to the summer, so that we can have a viewpoint as the budgeting and the CIP process begins. And so we've gone through that process, and there's been, and it's gone through staff and city council, and now the CIP has been approved for this year and then the coming years, and now it's time for us to put work groups together around those goals to decide what we're going to focus on for this year.
We do have, so last year's focuses, do we want to start walking through those, Brian, and just kind of give an update of where we're at? Or do you want to focus primarily on assignments, committee assignments, and subcommittees?
I think we start with summarizing what was approved in the CIP, and then
Okay.
we'll build groups around that, and
Yeah.
then we'll build other ongoing groups,
Sure.
subgroups.
So for the 24 CIP, the 3 projects that we had on there, we had Hackberry Park, we have Lurton Park, or parking lot expansion, and Pickleball was the third. Now, Hackberry, we did not get our grant this year. We'll be reapplying for that grant. I know it was very competitive, and some of these larger cities ended up getting the lion's share. But we will continue to go after these grant opportunities for the project. And I do think that it is important to continue with a subcommittee for Hackberry as we go into the design phase.
All right, so, yeah, so we have groups already in place for Hackberry and Pickleball. That's not to say that we can't change them up, but let's talk about that right now. So Hackberry, Gordy and I were on it, and I think that we have a pause now. We can still do some work towards that, but I think it's more of a continuing continuing down the same path that we started. Probably not a lot of work this year like we had anticipated.
Correct.
When's the earliest we can get approved again for a grant?
I believe I applied in September or October.
Okay, so we're close to the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was twice a year or just once.
So there are equipment grants and then there are facility grants,
Got it.
and they happen at different points throughout the year.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's probably worth on Hackberry for us to this year think about, what we would do if that grant never happened. I mean, they're just grant fundraising is difficult and who knows, it may never show up. So we should be thinking about what we could do there, spending less money and.
And I've started that conversation with the Baseball Association. What can we do right now to make safer playing areas? What improvements can we do in-house to make it the best for what it can be at the moment?
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't see it as a,
Because
we didn't get this
drainage
grant.
was
so we
such a
can't
big
do
part,
it.
is there anything we can do on drainage outside of the grant?
I mean, maybe continue drought, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
No, it's, I think with the scope of that project, I don't know if we would look at any of those drainage improvements.
Yeah.
And once it gets across the road too, it's just not,
Yeah.
can't do a whole lot of it.
So I think the work there is really about discussing alternatives, and then as the grant deadline comes, doing a little bit more work just to confirming that what the grant we're going to put forward, similar grant that we did last year, or make some modifications. So.
Did you get any feedback on the grant?
No. I know there was another nearby city that went for a similar grant, and that was turned down as well. So I know Eden Prairie got a big one, Crystal, Plymouth. The only small size city was Deep Haven, and they got the full amount. So curious as to what that was. But this is an important one to keep a subcommittee on. Again, it's not a year of just waiting and seeing what happens. I think it's still a year that we can make these improvements, what we can, and having the subcommittee's eyes on that would be beneficial.
Okay.
Do you feel like you need a third? Not volunteering necessarily.
Sure, you want to
I'm not, I'm just saying.
Sounds like
Do you need more help? I think you guys are on a lot there, so.
I know.
One thing that came up, so anyways, we'll go through and create these subcommittees around specific projects, and then we'll have some subcommittees that are not around similar projects, ongoing stuff like trails and so forth. One of the ones I would like to propose that we add this year is something that came out of our Hackberry work, which is you and I starting to build relationship and better insight into the youth association's plans and needs around their facilities, okay, or their fields, right? And then also what we've done with opening discussions with the city or with the school and with other cities and so forth. So what I would call it, that is kind of a supply-demand, like future planning in our greater community to address the needs of our youth associations. We need a smaller name than that, but I would propose that we add that for ongoing subcommittee too. So I'd like to continue on that. I don't know if you wanted to continue.
I'm happy to stay on it, yeah.
And I didn't know where that left you for your interest in continuing on the Hackberry.
Yeah, I mean, 3 feels like maybe a little much, but I mean, we can talk about that. I don't know if you wanted to help on Hackberry, maybe 3 on that one, and then and I can keep doing this.
Okay, great.
So
because you
I'm fine
mentioned
with that, or I'm probably more interested in your.
Jan Michael?
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael, you're on just a few assignments, and it would be great to get you more engaged. So.
Sure.
You want to help with the Hackberry?
Yeah.
Okay. So why don't we put the 3 of us on Hackberry, Gordy, Michael, right? There's not a lot of work So, but I think that would be good. And then this other subcommittee around the coordinating, I think that you and I should continue on that.
There's some crossover with that in
Third,
Hackberry anyway.
what's that?
There's some crossover with that in Hackberry.
Yeah, yeah,
And many different parks.
yeah. So,
I put up a list of different projects. You know, we kind of look at our CIP cycle in a 5-year block and then a 10-year block. These were some of the goals that we had within our 5 years, the upcoming 5 years. Some are in process, some are still pretty far out. Some are kind of out of our control. Some of the trail improvements, those are different agencies that we're waiting on them to start different aspects of it. But these are things where, you know, some might be a little more immediate than others, and in others we might want to push off even farther. Crystal Bay, we just may not want to do anything quite yet.
let's do Lurton and Pickleball, and then we can see if there's any of these other ones we want, and then trails.
Yeah, I'd like to
See if we
do
can
trails.
add any others.
We got the adopted park, I think too is a.
Yeah, there's something like that, like, is that a committee? Like, it is, but like, does that need to be in this list?
Yeah,
Initiatives.
I think it should. I think as a subcommittee, we should be able to look at the goals that we set out and really be able to plan our year accordingly and have some firm deadlines to when we like information out to the public. I would really like that one to be a subcommittee.
Okay, so Lurton doesn't have anyone on it right now, right?
So the Lurton project, that was just again a staff initiative, and we will be bringing a recommendation to City Council next week from an engineering side.
Okay, so we don't, that's not a subcommittee?
No, we can have a Lurton subcommittee. We can have any subcommittee that project is moving to City Council.
Okay, well, if we don't need, I mean, it sounds like it's beyond us.
Yeah, I think we've discussed the needs at that park and.
Okay, all right, so let's not do that. Pickleball, it was Sandy, Cameron and I. Sandy, I know, you want to say on that? I'm happy not to be on that, if someone else, if you want,
I'm happy to stand.
two of you guys want to just, yeah.
She sent me mean emails.
So after February, Josh.
Yeah.
How does the interaction between the Parks Commission and the City Council work? If I made the leap and I said, city approves the project in February, then I'm a little gray on whether the City Council then has a project group or we're still the project group. How does that interaction work?
There can still be feedback from the Park Commission, but as a Park Commission, you are making your recommendation, and the City Council, they will make their decision, whatever that is. If your recommendation is to build 9 courts and have it in that layout, and they agree, then they will make that.
I'm just wondering, after February, what is the role of the Parks Commission?
It would really move on to staff and contractors.
That's what I was thinking too. So, do we even have a subcommittee after February?
I don't think so, but it maybe not revolving around that project, but it could be future use of those courts. Maybe you're getting a lot of feedback of,
Yeah.
we really would like more.
So the
back
management of
changes.
it, those sorts of things. Okay, I just want to make sure we're all clear when we talk about subcommittee that if the City Council approves in February, it becomes kind of a different animal at that point than what it's been up to this point. And outside of my Parks Commission activities, I will be actively engaged in the fundraising side of it. So, I'll be wearing a different hat at that point as well, which I don't want to be confused with this.
Trails?
Yeah, so we have a core group of Kjersti and myself. Brian's joined and Gordy's joined a couple of times with the overlap of ski trails, but I would say that the 4 that are on this piece of paper I would leave. So The loose line and the County Road 19 are, I wouldn't say out of our control, but largely driven by Hennepin County. And so Joss is trying to help arrange interactions, and Kjersti has a lot of experience with them. So I think just keeping those on and trying to make progress. The cross-country ski trails and eventually potentially some of our own equipment should stay on there, and that's something I'm passionate about, as well as the Lowry Wood connection to the loose line. So those four, I think, should stay as initiatives. The other ones we talked about are, we should add the Mound Bike Trail, because that's clearly kind of front and center again. The County Road 6 improvement, which I think is much like Lurton, it's in your hands, and it's going to get taken care of. And then the North Arm Trail, which is dependent on the road, which is off a year at least. So I think if we just add the Mound Bike Trail and...
So, a couple things. So, our subcommittees were limited to 3. We can't have 4. It would be 3 max, so that we're not at an open meeting violation. 3 commissioners. So 4 we would have quorum. 3 we can do.
Okay.
So we have to be really careful where if maybe Cameron, you have some overlap on one project and then it switches to Gordy the next time. We want to make sure that we're not having more than 3 commissioners.
We'll absolutely do that. So
and
maybe
then
it's best to just keep it at 2. And I forgot to mention, we talked about a quarterly interval, so we would meet probably with you and do it maybe 2 weeks before each working session each week or something. So.
And then also with these goals. So as a park commission, we want to be in agreement. It's okay if there's disagreement too, but I would like these goals to be reflective of the entire park commission. If there's something on there that we just don't want to see, or half the group, it's really contentious, maybe it takes more time to talk through, and it's not quite on our goals list yet.
Sure.
So mountain biking, as you're saying, we're just kind of in early stages. We get to the next meeting. Hopefully we have more information as a park commission, and we can come together and say, yeah, that's on our goals list for the year. So
fair enough.
I want to, just to be fair, I don't want anyone to feel like this is subcommittee A can put whatever they want on it, subcommittee B gets to do this. I think we all have our parts to play, but we just want to make sure that as a group we are together on it.
Yeah, so then I would just reframe, when we do meet on February 5th, whatever that date is, that's what I'd be looking for, is the commission support.
Yep, perfect.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the other 4 that we didn't talk about today? They've been on there for a while. All right, good, thanks.
I think we can remove Crystal Bay Park.
Yep.
It's,
already crossed it out.
Isn't that very...
All right, the next one I have on my list is the golf course. And I have some late-breaking news that there was a trade that happened. Cameron's going to be on the golf course with Gordy. I'm going to be on pickleball with Sandy.
Sounds good. It's probably a good idea to just keep them all at 2, so if you want to bring somebody into your plan.
Oh, you've wanted that for a long time, Cameron.
like an NBA draft. PGA draft.
All right, so the other one is community events. Every year we bring this up and say, do we want to do more than the tree lighting this year?
I would definitely consider something on Big Island. It's a great resource. Take some coordination to make sure people can get there.
How do we lead that?
I think we just keep saying we should do something. So, we could build something around invitation to veterans groups, have it open to the school groups, just have a big event so that people will get out there and see it.
What about the sailing schools?
Sailing schools would be good too. Yeah. I mean, I'd be happy to be on it. I don't necessarily have to drive it, but I can also feed information to the committee and help coordinate. So.
Okay.
So this is, I think, a really important one for our park commission, one that we don't really spend a whole lot of time on. But we do have our events coordinator, Kim. I think she's underutilized on the event side. I think it could be a great way for us to get out in the community and to get more input from the residents, whether it's Big Island or Lerton. I know we did the dog days in the past, so, yeah, Kim would be a great resource if we want to do future events.
Kim's last
Linder,
name.
L-I-N.
Paul Marvella's book is out, we could have him come and do book signings and shelter, I mean, that could be kind of fun. I know it's hard to get to if you don't have a boat, but I think we could have some effort. We did something like a groundbreaking or an open house there once when we had a shuttle, and we had quite a few people out there, so.
So why don't we,
So we do just have Jan and Brian on our community events side.
why don't you, I'm happy to stay on there, and then as we, like, I can talk with you if we want to do something
Yeah.
there, or we have some other ideas, and then, you know, we don't
I'd be
need
happy
to
help
fill
with
out,
that.
we don't need to fill out everyone, you know, all these subcommittees or whatever.
Correct.
I would love to work with Jamie on the Christmas tree lighting.
It was
Sure.
It was a very good event again this year.
How's fundraising coming for next year?
Are you really asking me that question?
So,
I do think we should do something at work.
okay,
Yeah, that's the one I was thinking
I
of too.
think it's time. We did a couple, and unfortunately, the people that did that are no longer our commissioners.
with us.
No, they're with us, they're just not. But I think that I think we should wait until the parking lot situation is, because I went by there the other day, and it was cold, and there was no place to park, and it was, you know, again, something that I think we should have that done, but once we get the parking lot, I think we should look at doing some type of event out there in the summer. Maybe having Chuck and John's come or whatever, and about maybe rescuing, have a rescue group come out there.
Not that you need more ideas, but I think it'd be really cool to do a kids hiking event on Saga Hill. With those trails there, it's just such a beautiful area, and I think families could really benefit from more exposure to that, and, you know, focusing on children, I think would be a cool thing.
I agree. Okay, so,
Saga Hill.
I'll work on this, and we'll bring in other people as we go, Kim and Josh and so forth, but we have
And I'd help with the
possibility of Saga Hill event, Big Island event, Norton event, 100-year event at the golf course, and tree lighting.
We need more support at Christmas.
Yes.
for tree lighting.
Okay.
If you could just make it a little warmer, Josh, it'd be easier to volunteer.
Well, obviously with the tree lighting, and we have 500 people there. We
What?
need to, yeah.
All right, remind me, Summit Beach, the year?
I believe that was 26.
26 is when it's tentatively scheduled.
Yes,
So we don't have anything to do this year.
we do not.
Okay.
Just the stuff that we discussed that staff would do, we would add the buoy rope.
Right.
Just those little.
But
I
I
think
think we're
we-
looking for a subcommittee.
Correct.
That stuff.
Yeah, I think once we
We've
do
already talked about that.
Yeah.
stuff, so. All right, so other ideas that were on this, that, you know, we're open, if anyone wants to run with these things this year, but
What about playground equipment? I know you went to that training and you're like, oh boy,
it's a nightmare.
like where are we at that?
I think, so right now we do, twice a year we do inspections on playground equipment. We'll be increasing that to every month. And then we'll be going through with inspections quite a bit more. And then we are looking at our replacement. I think we had like every 15 years or something like it was. We had a number set aside for equipment was being replaced at a certain interval. The next one that we looked at was Antoine Park. for replacement.
Anton Park is maybe a bigger project than just the
Correct.
playground equipment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's one I wanted to bring up, if any of the commissioners have any interest in working on that. This year, that's something that we had an open house.
And it's a neat neighborhood. Yeah, it was a year ago, and they're very active. They're very proud of that park. They spend a lot of time in it. They do a lot of community events there. And that's, I think, again, even just for our park commission to show up to their different events, we don't have to host it. We can just be a part of it. So I think there's a lot of opportunity and fun to make some improvements and also just to get to know the community.
Josh, what's the budget? How much money does the park fund have?
So I believe we will be getting $200,000 into the Parks Fund this year. I'm not sure what our balance is right now. And then
You mean you have money left over from last year, is that what you're saying?
probably won't be much.
Okay. So how, do you have money committed for certain projects out of that 200,000?
Yeah, so what we would look at, every year we would be looking at that addition into the Parks Fund. And then we're also funded through, so Lurton has its own fund through the parking passes. The golf course now has the enterprise fund, so whatever revenue comes in stays at the golf course. But for the parks too, any type of developments that happen, there was just a recent one, and I think we'll be getting 100,000 into the park. I know there's more in the pipeline. So anytime there's it's a park dedication fee.
But is any
Why are you asking?
because I want to know where our money's going. So is there money from that 200,000 committed to any of these projects already? Or not?
It's the only way to fund them. So as a park commission, we have to decide what our focus is.
Okay, so you didn't know that before, that isn't decided before the beginning of this year? Or, I'm just trying to.
We don't make that decision here at the Parks Commission.
Parks can make their recommendation.
Right.
If they want to focus on a certain project, that they can do that. They still have to make that recommendation to City Council. Ultimately, City Council has the authority to approve
Okay,
that.
I just phrased that wrong. So is any of the money that's going to be in the park fund for 2024 committed to any project by the City Council that you know of?
Well, so we were wanting to use a lot of it for the Hackberry project, but those dollars wouldn't go far without a match with a grant or any donations, so we'll probably hold off on that right now. So our other two projects would be Pickleball and then the Lurton parking lot expansion. Lurton, again, is funded through the Lurton Fund. So Pickleball is there. That doesn't mean we use all those funds for Pickleball. That just means we have funds sitting there.
What are they committing? Because originally, or at the last meeting, they weren't going to commit any funds for pickleball. That it was all going to be
from the Parks Fund. So we might look at from our Streets and Stormwater Fund. We might say, well, that's a good use of our funds to build that stormwater pond. That wouldn't come out of the Parks Fund. The parking lot, that's probably a community development or something like that. At this point,
money going directly towards the pickleball courts from
we're not even at that point. I haven't brought that to council. We're just not there. But no, I don't believe that. I'm not sure what's going on.
Well, that's a City Council decision.
What we're wanting, and it's been kind of told to us, is that this needs to come through donations. The pickleball community or sponsors should really be kind of pushing this.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay, so we were talking about Antoine. If that's something that we want to push forward, if we have an interest, that's one option. The other one is French Creek Park. He's always been on our radar as tree maintenance and planting and so forth out there. I'm throwing out some ideas if anyone has an interest or thinks that this is a priority?
You thinking 2026 was the next,
Was what?
or the, I'm sorry, that was summer, that's what.
Summer.
What do you think the playground is for next one?
I think we said 25, so with that, if it becomes a part of a larger project, then it may get pushed back, you know. If it truly is just playground replacement,
Yeah.
maybe we could do within 25.
Well, maybe
No,
that's something we
it's
should
like
pick up this year, so we identify, is it a bigger project or is it just playground?
Okay.
I'm happy to take that on, I love that park. I love that neighborhood.
So Cameron and Brian,
It's not sound right up for more.
all right.
Right,
Cameron and Michael.
I'll do it.
Mike, we might just bunk together, man.
Yeah.
And then you have playground equipment replacement, so is there
Yeah, so I
a,
think,
review all of our,
and that's just a replacement cycle, so looking at them right now, we might need to replace elements of the playgrounds, but we would need to just,
but you don't need us for that.
okay. I will make my staff recommendations when needed.
Yeah, okay.
Because Navarre just needs playground. Navarre Park,
What's that?
Navarre Park. We're just looking at playground equipment.
No, the equipment portions of it, we need to replace a few little like plexiglass things, just so you can look through it, or the telescope,
Okay.
things like that we'll replace.
Yeah, you don't need us for that. That's it.
Okay.
The other subcommittee we had last year was the lake access points.
Yep.
So work need to continue or?
And we've identified a number of sites. And now the next steps would be to say, what are the sites? Do they need different designations or something like that? So
Or improvements.
or improvements that are parts of it, so it probably should continue, yes.
Okay.
Adam has picked out the ones that he wants us to look at
That's next.
and next. So we got the ones that were picked out for last year and the
Okay.
signs were put up. And so now we usually take about 10 and go out and look at them.
Okay. Were you on that?
Sure.
That's not on here.
Jan, they were on it.
So that's on the
You wanna look at
back side. We have Lake Access Point League Commissioners, Jan, Cameron, and
What was the last one?
Michael. Yeah.
Oh.
Same old? Okay. Anything else we want to, we could talk more about this in February too, and that's when we'll kind of finalize it. Right?
Are you going to clean this up based
Yes.
on this?
Yep.
You send that out?
Yep.
Appreciate it, thanks, John.
Set it out like next week.
I'll send it for review and then that'll be presented again. I think what I would like to do is have this come up at every single one of our meetings, is that we have our goals in front of us and we have our assignments as well. And what I would like to do at the commissioner updates is that they could maybe go through their assignments and give an update on if there's any issues with that.
You
And
know,
Cameron, are you gonna lead the adopt a park lead still?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Unless you want, if you want to take it on, you're welcome to.
No, I'd be happy to help you.
Yeah, I know. There hasn't been anything since you and I met with Josh and your
Yeah.
staff.
Yeah, and I'll be sending out some calendar invites where we can get together soon and
Okay.
just talk through our next steps.
Okay, so that was good discussion. Thank you guys. None of this is set in stone by any means, but if you have other thoughts, give me a call. I'm happy to work with Josh or whatever, make
Josh,
some
I think-
changes here.
I think it'd be just helpful where you have the goals here.
Yeah.
If you just split that column and had a narrow column that just said stage. So that when we looked at each of these, we'd say, is the stage exploratory, is the stage public input, is the stage approvals, is the stage execute. So we have a sense that when you're looking at these things, but you immediately go, this is an exploratory conversation. How's the exploration going?
Yeah.
Right? Because they take on a really little different character. And then if something switches stages, you know that we've progressed beyond where we were. So I think it helps us to also get a vision as to whether we're just always exploring or if we're moving through these stages.
Okay.
So I think that would be a really helpful distinction to make, just a stage.
Sure.
Or even like a timeline almost. So I gotta say,
Well-
like Antoine's like, it's good to know that 2025 it's supposed to be updated, like, and you can just understand like, what is our goal this year? It's like,
Yeah, that's more extensive. I just want to know
No,
the
no,
right
yeah.
stage. Yeah.
Steps.
So Josh, on the signs for the beaches, how are, and what is happening on those?
So the goal has been replacing 3 signs a year.
Right.
Last year we did Summit, Crystal Bay, and Antoine. And then, so this next year will be Sandy. I have the list, I'm sorry. But three signs a year is what we've been doing.
Yeah, because I thought Lydia was going to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's Sandy Beach?
Sandy does need a sign, yes.
Okay,
Needs a new sign.
okay.
Why don't you just roll into the rest of your updates?
Sure. Yeah, so our Parks Department update. So we had a great year at the golf course. We finished, we had a big increase, about 60,000 over what we did last year in sales. Part of that is just drier weather. Dry weather, we can get golf carts out. As soon as we get any type of rain at the golf course, it is wet. It just stays wet for a long time. So it is kind of the upside to a drought at a golf course. But this year has been a lot of fun to see the amount of, just the change in our leagues. So the big push has been towards junior rounds and then also mixed leagues. Kim, our clubhouse manager, has done a great job bringing new people into the golf course, teaching them what golf is and showing them how fun it can be. So really fun season watching the golf course kind of change. The atmosphere is a little different from what it was. Predominantly, it used to be the Tuesday and Thursday night leagues running the place. That is starting to shift a little bit to see Monday night is now a Cargill Women's League, and then right after that is a mixed league. So it's a lot of fun watching these changes take place. We are trying to look to the future. We have our 100-year anniversary coming up at the golf course. Some changes that need to happen. We're looking to have staff there a little more permanently than what it is now. Our Parks Department, it's myself and then 2 full-time employees, maintenance workers. And so they're really trying to go take care of everything all at once, and the golf course sometimes can be neglected. So we're looking at some ways where we can give a little more focus to the golf course. They're paying customers. We want to provide good conditions at the golf course, and just trying to address any issues that need to, or any improvements that can be made this next year. Irrigation, we replaced all the satellite boxes on the golf course, and that's been running a lot better this year. Our next step is we want to start planning for an irrigation pump house. So we learned a lot about the golf course this year and our limitations with irrigating. It's pretty tough. It's a really tough spot that we're in. And again, with the increase in rounds that we're seeing at the golf course, those areas get beaten up pretty good. But we're excited with where we're at, and this next year, our focus is going to be on just cleaning up the golf course, getting it looking good for the 100 year. With
Is there
that,
a point in time that the 100 year is
yeah.
celebrated?
So we have tentatively planned the week of June 17th. It will be the week of celebrations. We'll be doing different prize giveaways, events, looking to do some food trucks. Maybe there's some local musicians that could come and play. Even the Fesser family, Leo Fesser was the builder of the golf course. He was the first superintendent at Woodhill. His family has indicated that they would like to come out for the anniversary, and so we're looking forward to it. This is also the Tuesday Night Men's League. This is the longest running league in Minnesota at a public course. So they've been going for a long time, looking to get them involved in activities, so it's gonna be fun. June 17th that week. With that, at the golf course, winter is a great time to do tree work. Tree work has to be done, it's just a part of it. So no, not for Pavilion, and we chatted about that. I have some pictures, if anyone wants to look at pictures. I like pictures. Now there's a lot of silly stuff on the internet. People saying I cut down living trees and no reason whatsoever. The fact is, trees on a golf course, they have to be worked on. You look at areas where golf courses have been overplanted. That's happened at a lot of golf courses all over the US. 40s, 50s, 60s, they planted whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted, wherever. So that leads to a lot of issues for turf. This is a golf course, not a tree farm. Okay, so our priority is find turf. So we prefer it. We want to provide the right environments for fine turf. And also we're looking at tree health too. Not a healthy tree. You can see right through it. A lot of these trees were planted very close together, or maybe at the time they were just fine, but they weren't trimmed, they weren't removed, so they become an issue. You have rot. That's the same trunk. I don't want you to feel like I took all these different pictures. That's the same trunk, different angle. Not healthy. This is a real safety concern. So it's a golf course. We have kids, we have people hanging around. That's a major issue right there. So we want to provide a safe environment for people to play golf. Not healthy. And on top of that, we have a lot of ash trees on the golf course. Emerald ash borer is just rolling through. We might cut a tree, and you can go and take a close-up picture of that stump, and it might look great. It doesn't mean it isn't infested. So, we did, I think we have one more tree, or maybe 2 more trees to remove at the golf course this winter. And then what we'll be looking at in the spring is some tree plantings. It won't be a 1-for-1, and it won't be same tree in the same location. We'll look at different varieties. We need more diversity of plantings. We have issues with ash trees and maples. They plant the same species in a row and expect it to thrive. It's not how it works. So we'll be looking at some diverse plantings and then spread out throughout the course, not in just one area. That's it. I like those pictures.
So Josh,
yeah.
when you see, in the public forum, there were all these piles and piles and piles. I assume because these trees are large, they had large canopies, and when you cut down a tree, you're cutting all those branches, and when it stacks along a row, you're seeing a lot of brush.
Correct.
How many, just to give some reasonableness, how many trees did we actually cut down?
I think our count was 22.
Okay.
So I stand by my decision. It wasn't the mayor's decision. It wasn't anyone else's decision. It was my decision. And I directed staff to cut those trees, and I stand by it.
You are.
And they don't need to be harassed for doing their job. And they do a good job.
You have some background in this area.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah. Unfortunately, I chose a career path where everyone else knows how to do my job. But here's where I am.
Do you grind those stumps now?
Yes, so they're being ground. We have a few more left to grind. We have 2 interns working with us over winter break. They're great. They're very hardworking. A lot of fun to be with. And they're getting those cleaned out. We'll get them filled in. This is an excellent time of year to do it without the snow cover. We're just going to be able to establish a much better turf when spring rolls around.
Does all that go to the brush dump? Where does all that stuff go?
So we did have brat tree come out, and they did 4 removals. They had a big clam truck. They come and they haul it out for us. Some of it has gone to our brush site, and that will be, they'll send it through a chipper at some point.
Just out of curiosity, because I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Approximately how many trees are there on the golf course?
We do have an inventory. I can get that answer.
I'm just curious.
Too many.
Probably hundreds.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just trying to measure the materiality of 20 trees.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Did you ever think about putting a gate up on that road in there?
Thought a lot about it over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of looks bad with the orange
It does.
pilings and stuff out there for your special events and all that.
No, and that's something, we do have a standard that we have our lake access points in other areas. So this area would be a little bit larger, so we would have to custom make it, but our staff in Public Works would be able to do that. We talked about it last year, we didn't get around to it, but yeah, we would like to get something in place.
Any other updates?
No, that's it for now.
Is Kim doing anything with the clubhouse this winter? I know sledding, she's tried to open it last year, obviously, no snow. Is that still a goal if we get snow?
It is a goal, yes. We would like to keep it open if possible. Right now, she's doing a lot reaching out to leagues, just talking through what this next season is going to look like. She is selling memberships already for next year. We do still have merchandise in the clubhouse, and she's sold quite a bit right before Christmas, which is nice. And yeah, she stays busy. This is also a time of year where she can take a little more time off, which is nice for her.
Good to see you all.
Thank you.
See you all in February.
I don't know what
We should also think about selling classes, clients.
I had last year, bike version or?
Yeah. You know what I'm.
I think it was last year we had a discussion.
Yeah, we should talk about RFP.
Yeah. What's timing on
Well, it goes to council next week.
what's the proposal?
So, background is.
I think we add about 14 or 15 stalls. And
The timing?
timing would be the summer. Summer, fall.
No.
Where they just stay.
I was going to tell you, she said, what's going on?
14 adults.
Yeah, I haven't heard,
And the truck was stopped.
The kids are
haven't heard anything.
Oh, well, Hennepin County is losing their
Alright.
and so the police. Yeah, they got it for 2 days.
I'll talk to Gordy.
What's your deal?
There are people who start down there.
We'll put them over here. Throw them in
Take
there.
it out on Mondays, I don't think they realize. Well, it's good. And then you have to put in something, issue up. Okay.
Did I tell you I
I'm here.
So, I'm like, park at
On your rise.
like on the first.
Because this is
We can either ask for permission
No.
and then come down the Duval line to the road and then back up. I've got 3.5 miles.
January 18th. I'm still waiting for permission from that.
Oh, yeah.
So I didn't mean to ignore that.
No.
She hasn't done it, it goes to like 5.
Right when you come down over the hill there.
Yeah.
Wes releases this every year.
But
Oh,